Hello there, I'm Colin Parsons. I write science fiction, fantasy and fusion steampunk. I'm in the middle of writing a new book called Killian Spooks, which is going to be a 5-book series hopefully. It's going to be set in the Rhondda Valley in South Wales, and I'm just on my sort of third draft of the first chapter. The first chapter is called The Chase, and this is how it goes. "Give it up, Charlie," Killian shouted in annoyance. He'd only just picked up his scent again and sprang into action. The supernatural ran through Dunraven Street, the main road of the town. He needed to catch his victim before he got to the square, but he didn't know which direction he was coming. "You know you can't get away from me," he called out, feeling slightly vexed at the fool's insistence at escaping. It was dark, and this place felt seedy and forgotten. The night air was stale, with a stench of death, but you couldn't really expect anything else in this province. Once he spotted him, Killian's eyes burst open, and he felt a stab of satisfaction. He was about to use his powers to speed up and catch the scavenger, but he was too late. Charlie had already entered the square. Charlie Greech stopped, spun around in the middle of the road, smiling a sickly grin. Killian could just make out his silhouette in the distant pale yellow of the street lamp. He growled as he moved in closer. He hated this part of town. He knew full well that this area of Pandy was a kind of dead spot, like a place where a mobile phone can't pick up a signal, and he knew his powers were temporarily compromised. Crap, he thought, and winced as if he'd been scalded with hot water. He came to a stop when he felt a weakness and knew this was the edge. Killian was tall, at least 6'3". He had the appearance of an 18-year-old student, but in fact was 600 years old. This is probably why his enemies didn't take him seriously until they realised what they were up against. He wore a black t-shirt with death plastered on the front. His legs tapered off in tight, skinny jeans, ending in red, 70s-style trainers. To top it all off, he wore a woolen hat that loosely hung to the back of his head and flattened his otherwise wild, sandy hair. "Come on, Spooky, you're not afraid of little old me, are you?" Charlie invited. His eyes were pale yellow, framed on a face edged with a black matted mane. His appearance was gaunt, as every scavenger's was. Scavengers didn't steal food or money, not in this world. They stole a person's soul, and once that was gone, nothing remained of the occupier. They were doomed to walk this unearthly world forever. "Don't call me Spooky, Charlie, you're just making it worse for yourself." "Ooh, I think I've hit a nerve. Come on, Spooky," he continued, and extended his bony arm and wiggled his grimy fingers. "Come on," he repeated in a higher pitch, as if calling a frightened dog to a dinner plate. This was really starting to annoy. Killian attempted to step forward, but thought better of it when 2 more characters entered the fray. They must have seen what was going on. They stepped out from the shaded entrance of the Pandy Inn. They looked in a worse state than Charlie. Ragged clothes, blank expressions, but also deadly scavengers, and not to be dismissed in any way. He could take on 1 without his supernatural powers, but 3, that was pushing it. That lent itself to an idea. "Look, fellas, I don't want to hurt you, I just want that idiot," he said, pointing at his victim. "He's taken something that doesn't belong to him, and I need it back." "You mean this, Spooky?" Killian grimaced again at the name calling, as Charlie dipped his grubby hand into a pouch in his garment. He drew out a small light beam, kind of like a golf ball, but luminous blue. Killian gave a secret sigh of relief. Obviously Charlie hadn't handed her over to the receiver yet. He must be waiting in the Pandy Inn for it. Once the exchange happened, the person it belonged to would end up as a ghoul, fully separated from the living and forever a spirit. Killian's job as a catcher was to return it to its owner and send them on their way back to the living. "Charlie, that doesn't belong to you, know that," Killian spoke truthfully. "Now hand it back over and we can forget all about this little mistake. I need the Bridger, and you don't need what I've got for you. Oh, you're all big and tough normally, Spooky, but what can you do here? This dead zone." He grinned with confidence and raised both arms as if parting a curtain. Killian knew this was going to end badly for someone. "You haven't any powers in your Spooky, so run along," he said patronisingly. Killian leaned forward. "Have you really thought this through, Charlie? Have you?" "Huh, what do you mean? You're trying to trick me." For the first time he felt vulnerable. "I haven't any power here, and neither have you, or your creepy friends." There was a grimace from the 2 ugly dudes behind him, and they shifted slightly. They were also about to move forward, when Charlie stepped in front of them and grabbed one on the arm, blocking the other with his other arm. Don't step outside the square, you idiots. He'll have you for sure. He's pulling you towards him, can't you see that? Nice try, Spooky, but we're not stupid enough to break the circle. Killian swallowed hard. They'd nearly fallen for that, but Charlie was a little smarter than he gave him credit for. Charlie put the bridger back inside his cloak and grinned again, baring black and yellow broken teeth. I'm going to leave you now in the capable hands of my associates. You are not going anywhere until you give me back that bridger. Killian had just about had enough of this conversation and finally moved into the square. A mistake, I think, on your behalf, Spooky. Charlie stepped back behind his comrades. The two scavengers tensed, ready for the fight that was going to ensue. They were 3-1. No, wait, 3-2. Then an equal 3-on-3. All of a sudden, there were 10 Killian spooks wading in for the fight. What's going on? Charlie was completely taken by surprise. Stop him, you fools, it's just an illusion. But his henchmen were too busy trying to fight 3 or 4 Killians each at the same time. Charlie, however, was confronted by another duplicate Killian. You are not real, he said, poking the soul catcher in the chest, but he touched solid form, and his mouth fell open. Killian reached in and pulled out the bridger. He then gave a solid right hook into Charlie's nose. The scavenger went flying through the air and landed with a crack against the pub wall. I thought you had no supernatural powers in the circle, he groaned breathlessly. I don't have supernatural powers in you, but illusion isn't a supernatural power, idiot. I did say you should have thought this through, Killian explained as he stepped out of the circle, leaving the other scavengers to grapple with the fast disappearing ghosts. You fool, look, he's getting away, Charlie screamed to his men. They gave chase, but they were confronted with a different Killian now. He didn't even look back. With a flick of the hand, and he closed his fist, and immediately the two goons crumpled into nothingness. Charlie looked on in disbelief as Killian flicked him a gaze, while shaking his head. He'd seen this expression in an old Bruce Lee movie, and at some point basked in its effect. Don't ever call me Spooky again. Next time I won't be so lenient. He walked away and disappeared into the night. I'll have my revenge, Spooky. Just you wait, Charlie said when he knew the supernatural was not in earshot. I look forward to it. Killian's voice echoed a reply that grated Charlie's mind and sent a shiver through his filthy carcass. That's the first draft of the chapter, Killian's Books and the Ghosted Children. I hope you enjoyed it.